all of your process on sales hinges on three things. You have people, inventory, and advertising. So you're going to define the roles of your people. They have a clear objective. Hey, when you come in every day, this is your mission. This is what you're going to accomplish. This is what you need to take care of, and this is your whole domain. Then you're going to set expectations. Hey, I expect you guys to, from salespeople, I expect you to set 2 appointments per day. Or from your managers, hey, I need you to do your processes, but I need you to find 3 deals a day. You need to manufacture those, whether it's from sales, whether it's from service. You need to be a creator, and you don't need to wait until those deals come in the door. And then the third one is you have to have measurable outcomes. So if you can't measure the outcomes, you don't know if it's working. So that's where all your processes help. You'll help them define the day-to-day, and you'll help them reach their goals and objectives. So you don't just let them out there. You don't just, dump them into the deep end and say, hey, swim. Give them the swim lessons first. You got to tell them this is, how you kick, and this is how you paddle, and this is how you breathe. But that's what processes do for us. So they're really a catalyst, or they're an avenue for them to get to that point. And then you have that measurable expectation, and you're going to evaluate it, and you're going to talk about it frequently. Hey, this is the outcome that is desired, and we're going to measure it. Your outcome can be anything that you want to measure, but you have to define it and you have to make it tangible. For us, the easiest one to do is either sales or sales gross. So, hey, we need to improve this. We need to make more money on our car deals. How can we do that? Or we need to have more volume on car deals. How do we sell more cars? You have to break that down and define processes, and you have to define that for the people, and that will lead them down the path to success. There's always those crucial conversations. So when you're talking to people and you're sitting them down and you're finding out if you've got the right people, I always say that there's 2 ways that something's going wrong. The first one, we're just going to talk about it. I'm going to set the expectation. Maybe I wasn't clear. The second meeting you're like, hey, this is what needs to be done, and this is what I expect out of you. And then the third time, it's like, hey, here's the problem, and there's only 2 options at this point. Either 1, you're maybe not capable of it, or 2, you don't care enough about it to do it. And neither one of those work. Neither one of those are good answers. So we've kind of got to part ways. If I ever have to let somebody go, because that's just the nature of the business, you have to let people go, you have to fire people, and I 100% want them to realize that it's coming. If they ever are like out of the blue, oh my gosh, why did you fire me? Then that's my fault. That's me. I haven't set them up for success, or I haven't given them the tools, or maybe communicated it clearly enough. So that's always a thing that I look for. Most of the time nowadays, when I go to have that last conversation and we evaluate it and we say, hey, we've talked about this several times, here's your performance, here's where we needed it to be, and it just isn't happening. So we're going to do the best thing for both of us and part ways. Most of the time, they're already on board. They already know that the conversation's coming. And that's when I know, like, hey, that's the right thing. I've done everything that I can do to extract the most out of that. Here's a little caveat to that. People are good at certain processes in your development and in your business. As you grow, you may lose some employees that were really good at starting out. You may lose some employees that were really good in the middle or the transition. But you need to find those people that always want to go. Sometimes you have those people that stay. They help you get motivated, they help you start out, and they grow with you all the way through the process, and they continue to grow. They're going to be seeking it out, and they want to go to the next level, and they're always pushing. But those people are rare. So if you find those, really feed them, really continue to motivate, give them a good career path, and keep them on board. Going to the second part, inventory. So if you're a franchise dealer and you have new cars, we always create what we call a dream inventory. Most of the time it's called a dream inventory because it's just that, it's a dream between manufacturer constraints and what they allow you, and depending on who your manufacturer is and how they process orders and allocations, you might not be able to obtain that. But we're going to work closely to try to follow that dream inventory. In order to do that, you have to know what sells quickest, what's your quickest turn, what's your market, and then what options. When I very first started out, it was before all the internet and evaluations and everything. Well, my owner knew that if we had trucks, 4-wheel drive trucks with the white wall tires, the white letters on the outside, we knew that those turned at a higher rate than the regular ones and than just the black wall tires for whatever reason. The customers liked it more. So when we told him that, he said, okay, so how much does it cost to get those tires? How much does it cost to turn the tires inside out? And why haven't you done that to every vehicle in the lot? So that's what we're trying to do with the dream inventory. If it's black wheels, if it's a certain package, if it's a certain trim level, you want to have that. So like for one of my stores, we have several different trim levels and trim lines. And so we just determine, okay, we want X amount of two-wheel drive, we want X amount of four-wheel drive, we want the high end, we want the low end, and then our middle and our medium vehicle is going to be 70%. And so we try to stay along those allocation lines. So that's important for turn and for new cars. Your used car inventory is a little bit more complicated. You have to know what sells in your market. Same thing. You've got to be attentive and you've got to be on it. But there's several good tools out there, but you can do this without spending any more money. You just have to know, put your inventory in buckets. What are your core buckets? What do you always sell? Is it your own inventory, your own brand that you have? Or is it an SUV? Is it a price point? I've got two polar opposite stores. I've got one store that sells super cheap cars. And then I've got one store that can't move the cheap stuff. And the stores aren't even a mile apart. So it's amazing that there would be that much difference, but you have to know that. So if I get a cheap car at one place, I might move it to the other one. If I get an expensive car, Highline SUV, expensive truck, I know that that's going to sell and do really well in one spot. So I'm always trying to work and obtain those vehicles. I'm a little more cautious on the used cars that don't sell. So I might try to take them in a little bit cheaper. I might wholesale some of them, even though it seems like a really good piece. It's always a value proposition. How much work is this going to take? How much money am I going to tie up? And how long is it going to take to sell? If I can accomplish 2 out of 3 of those things with giving this vehicle to a wholesaler, then I'm going to do that. I'm not going to wholesale my prime stuff that customers are beating down the door for that I do really well with, but if it can free up some funds to where I can utilize them to buy stuff that turns quicker and helps my business, I'm going to make that decision and do that. It's volatile. It's always moving, always evolving, and it's nothing that you can say, okay, here it is, and it's stuck with me forever. You're going to always have to adapt. You're going to have to figure out those ebbs and flows of the business and what's effective for you. Then the last part about the used cars that I think is super important is keep the machine moving. Don't get too proud of anything. If you make a mistake, put it on the money, get rid of it. A mistake in the first 30 days costs you way less than if you ride that mistake out and you let it fester for 90 or 120 days. So make the decision, stick to what you know, and then don't be too proud of vehicles. Sell it, move off of it. You can almost always find another one. And keep the machine moving, keep the service dollars flowing, keep the trade-ins coming. That's what makes used cars work. It's not about that one transaction. If you miss one deal with a trade, you're probably missing 2 deals, and so on and so forth. So you might keep an eye on that. There's several metrics and all kinds of stuff that you can track. But good ones are search results page, SRPs, and then VDPs, so vehicle display page. How many times are your vehicles showing up in searches, and how many times are they getting clicked on? And then that will tell you how desirable your inventory is, and then also your turn rate, your aged vehicles, and then your gross. So the third one for advertising. Advertising is very tricky and it's very controversial. I don't expect you to go spend more money, or if you're an owner or if you're a manager, you don't need to go blow a whole bunch of money. So my general rule of thumb on advertising is it should 10 times my money, 10x. So if I'm going to spend $2,000, I need to make 20 grand. And there's a lot of avenues, and you can watch them when you get into your analytics and stuff that do a lot more. But the big thing is you have to have the right media for the right medium. So if I'm having YouTube pre-roll and that's what I want to advertise on, or that's what I want to put out, I've got to have the right video for that. And it's not the same. It might not be a call to action. So you've got to know all those different little nuances, and we can get into that in greater detail at another time. But right content for the right customer. Is your content attracting your actual buyer? Because you only have a certain amount of cars and you only deal with a certain clientele in a lot of cases. So you want to make sure that your content matches that. We don't need to have Ferrari content for Civic buyers, and we don't need to have Civic content for Bentley buyers. So make sure you're in the right lane. Consistency is key. When you're doing advertising, there's a lot of, we're kind of in a knee-jerk business where you do a lot of reacting instead of being proactive. And that's because sales change. One weekend we have a good weekend, we think it's all good and everything's going to go fine. And then the next week we don't sell any cars, and everything's terrible, we're never going to sell another car again, nothing's working, let's rip it all up and start over. But I would encourage you to be consistent, find a good plan that you think is going to work, be strategic, sit down and say, what media, what spots are we going to create to run here? What are we going to run on radio or YouTube? Where do our customers interact? Are they all streaming? Are they all watching on TV? Where do our customers take in their media? And then if we have a bunch out there, say we're operating on 3 or 4 and we want to reduce the spend, Eliminate one at a time and let's see. And it's not overnight. You can't cut it off one week and start at the next, but months, 2 months, 90 days. I think if you let it go longer than 60 days without action, you're probably fooling yourself in some form or fashion. But look at that and then see what that variable is. But let's eliminate one so we can solve for X instead of having to solve for X, Y, and Z in the same equation. Takes a lot longer and it's going to cost you a lot more sales and money in the meantime. Those are my 3 big things that will increase and make your dealership successful: people, inventory, and advertising. If you want to go in depth on any more of these topics, or you feel like your managers or your dealership needs help on any one of these, I'm always available. Reach out to me and we can talk more in depth about your current situation or specifically your dealership. If you have any comments down below or you've used some of this stuff in the past, please let me know. And if you need more help and more information, we can talk about it in another video.